What if I told you your failure isn't because you're not trying hard enough? It's because you're still giving yourself a way out. In life, most people never win big, not because they lack talent, but because they always keep one foot out the door. Today we're talking about the one mindset shift that separates those who try from those who triumph. This isn't just motivation. This is a call to burn the boats, to commit so deeply that failure becomes impossible. If you're stuck between fear and potential, this is the moment that will change your life. There's a reason the phrase burn the boats has lived on for centuries. It represents a line in the sand, a choice to move forward with no option of turning back, but beyond the drama of the metaphor lies a psychological truth. The human mind functions at a fundamentally different level when retreat is no longer available. When you leave the shore behind and eliminate the possibility of failure by removing the exit routes, something happens in the brain. Clarity sharpens, urgency takes over, and latent power that's been sleeping begins to stir. You see, when people keep backup plans in their pocket, they also unconsciously keep a portion of their willpower stored. A way it's like driving with one foot on the gas and the other lightly tapping the brake. That tension bleeds into everything, every decision, every risk, every moment of doubt. As long as we believe there's another path, an easier one, a safer one, we leave the door open for hesitation to crawl in. And hesitation kills more dreams than failure ever will. This is not about recklessness, it's about decision, deliberate, focused, full-bodied decision. The kind of decision that turns the mind into a weapon of purpose. The kind of decision that tells the subconscious, we are going forward. And there is no other direction. That mental commitment activates a part of you that has been waiting, watching from the sidelines, unsure if you really meant it when you burn the boats. That inner force steps onto the battlefield, and you finally meet the version of yourself that's capable of extraordinary things. There's an almost sacred psychology at work here. Every ancient civilization has stories, real or metaphorical, about the moment someone cut off escape and gave themselves entirely to the mission. Julius Caesar did it. Alexander the Great did it. Even Cortes, landing on the shores of Veracruz, ordered his men to destroy the ships. Why? Because he understood something modern minds forget: with a way out. The heart stays divided, but with no way out, the soul steps in. Now, think about your life. How many things have you halfway committed to? How many dreams are suffering? Not because they're too big, but because you've kept the door open just wide enough to slip out if it gets uncomfortable. You know the answer, you, and you know how it feels. To live in that gray space where nothing really ignites, where you're doing just enough to say you're trying, but not enough to make it happen. That's not living. That's bargaining with life, and life doesn't reward bargains. It rewards bold, clear, unshakable intent. If you truly want something, the first and most powerful move is to remove the exit signs. Not recklessly, but definitively set fire to the mental boats that keep taking you back to comfort, to compromise, to that old version of you who is always unsure. If you want to rise, you must anchor yourself to the decision to rise, with nothing beneath you but your will and nothing ahead of you but the target. Because the truth is this: the moment you make that kind of decision, the world shifts. You shift. You become something else, not because the goal changed, but because the version of you pursuing it is no longer split between two realities. You've chosen, you've committed, and now you're unstoppable. Burn the boats and find out what you're truly made of. Comfort is seductive. It whispers to us in the quiet moments of doubt, offering safety, familiarity, and the illusion of peace. But make no mistake, comfort is not your ally when you're chasing greatness. In fact, it is often the silent assassin of your potential. The second you begin to prioritize ease over effort, familiarity over growth, or security over risk, you've already begun retreating from your true path. The problem with comfort is that it convinces you that mediocrity is enough, and for a while it feels like it is. You're not failing, not spectacularly anyway. You're doing okay, maybe even better than most, but deep down you know that okay is the most dangerous place to be, because it's not bad enough to push you to act and not good enough to fulfill you. It's the middle, the gray zone, and nothing legendary ever came from the middle. Now, this isn't about discomfort for its own sake. It's not about chasing pain or glorifying struggle. It's about recognizing that growth lives outside the walls you've built to protect yourself. Every major transformation in human history, every personal evolution, every great leap forward happened in discomfort. It happened in uncertainty and risk, in the terrifying unknown. Why? Because that's where your deeper faculties are activated. That's where courage is called upon. That's where the higher self emerges. Let me be clear. Comfort is a drug, and the more you indulge in it, the less resilient you become. The mind begins to shrink, vision narrows, you stop looking ahead and start clinging to the now. But the now of comfort is stagnant. It doesn't carry you forward. IT holds you in place while the world moves on without you. That's why commitment and comfort cannot coexist. When you commit fully, you sign an invisible contract with discomfort. You agree to show up when you're tired. You agree to think creatively when resources run out. You agree to stay when it would be easier to leave, because the truth is, comfort never leads, it follows. I comes after you built something worthy of it. It comes after you've earned it, not before. But most people want comfort first. They want certainty before they begin. They want proof before they believe. They want support before they act. And that sequence guarantees one thing: nothing changes. The person waiting for perfect conditions is the person who dies with their music still in them. To burn the boats means to embrace discomfort, not as a punishment, but as a signpost. It means to see fear and resistance not as signals to retreat, but as confirmation. You're in the right place, the place where growth happens, the place where transformation begins. That's where your edge lives. That's where your future self is waiting to meet you. So the question becomes, are you willing to trade temporary discomfort for permanent regret? Or are you ready to sacrifice to case who you are today for who you could become? Because here's what no one tells you: the pain of discipline is always lighter than the pain of regret. And when you step into the fire willingly, when you make discomfort your proving ground, you become unstoppable. You stop flinching, you stop doubting, you stop waiting for permission. And in that moment, you stop being the person who wonders and you start becoming the person who knows. Choose discomfort, own it, run toward it. That's where your real life begins. When you burn the boat, you remove the possibility of retreat. But here's what most people overlook: the mind doesn't he instantly adjust to that decision. It resists, it doubts, it screams for a backup plan. And if you're not deliberate, your own thoughts will sabotage your commitment. That's why the third principle is vital. You must control the narrative in your mind, because your results will never exceed your internal story. Every action begins with a belief. Every belief is a product of a story you've rehearsed, consciously or unconsciously, over and over. Some people carry stories of power. I always find a way, I don't stop, I grow through pressure. Others carry stories of limitation. I never get a break, it's too late for me, I'm not built for this. Now imagine two people facing the same obstacle. The one with the empowering story doesn't he need certainty to move forward. They trust the process, they adjust and adapt. The other person with a disempowering story sees the obstacle not as a challenge, but as evidence that failure is inevitable. This is not a motivational gimmick. This is deep psychology. The subconscious mind does not differentiate between a real threat and a repeated suggestion. If you keep feeding it weakness, it will accept it as truth. If you constantly dwell on failure, limitation, and retreat, your mind will close the door to creative possibility. But if you train yourself to speak from strength, even in chaos, especially in chaos, your mind will begin searching for ways to win, not reasons to quit. When Hernan Cortés burned his ships, he wasn't just eliminating escape. He was sending a message to his men, more importantly to himself, that there was only one direction forward. That kind of psychological clarity removes doubt. It forces alignment. The body will follow what the mind believes to be necessary. The question is, what necessity are you programming into your own psychology? If you keep the internal dialogue vague, I hope this works, or maybe I'll give it a try, you're setting yourself up for soft failure. That kind of language creates mental escape routes. But when your language is precise and bold, I will not stop until this is done, for there is no other path but through your building a fortress inside your mind. And from that mental position, action becomes easier. Consistency becomes sustainable, resilience becomes automatic. Even fear, when confronted with enough certainty, begins to lose its grip because fear feeds on ambiguity. It thrives in indecision. The moment you decide who you are and commit to living that story, fear shrinks. That's not to say fear disappears, but it no longer runs the show. You've taken the wheel back. Now, this doesn't mean you lie to yourself. It means you tell yourself the truth. But the version of the truth that serves your higher aim. Yes, it's hard. Yes, you may fail. Yes, the odds are long. But none of that matters if you refuse to let it become your identity. Your story is not your circumstances. It is your response to them. So if you burn the boats, the next battlefield is internal. Rehearse the story of the warrior, not the victim. Speak in absolutes that define your purpose. Declare who you are until the evidence begins to match the identity, because your mind is always listening, and when it believes, the world begins to follow. Tell yourself the right story, not the easy one, not the inherited one, but the one that makes your destiny inevitable. When you've burned the boats, when you've made the decision that there's no turning back, you must realize that effort alone is not enough. Passion isn't enough. Even belief isn't enough. What separates those who merely try from those who ultimately transcend is strategic execution. Commitment without direction is chaos, but commitment paired with intelligent, consistent action, that's transformation. So let's be honest, people fail not just because they lack desire, but because they lack design. They confuse movement with progress. They grind every day, repeating the same tactics, expecting different results. That's not dedication, that's stagnation dressed up in effort. What you need is focused intensity, guided by feedback and recalibrated continuously, because when there's no plan B, your only option is to optimize plan A until it works. And that requires one thing above all: responsibility. Radical, ruthless responsibility, not just for the outcomes, but for the process, the choices, and the mindset behind every step. No blaming the market, no resenting the critics, no waiting for a miracle. The moment you burn the boats, you declared that you are the captain, and you either steer the ship to glory or to the rocks. But either way, you're accountable, and in that accountability lies your power. It's easy to say, I'll do whatever it takes. It sounds noble. But few people actually sit down and ask, what exactly will it take? Strategic execution demands you ask hard questions. What must be done daily, even when you don't feel like it? What skill gaps must you fill not someday, but now? What habits must die, no matter how comfortable or familiar? Burning the boats is an act of courage, but executing without excuse is an act of character. This is where discipline becomes non-negotiable. Not the kind that's loud and dramatic, but the quiet, relentless kind. The kind that wakes up early, not because it's easy, but because it's aligned. The kind that makes the call, sends the email, reads the book, tightens the routine, not for praise, but for purpose. When you commit fully to your life becomes less about feelings and more about fundamentals. Think about any great builder, an architect, an engineer. They don't just throw bricks together with enthusiasm. They have a blueprint, they measure twice, cut once, and they adapt when needed. They don't blame the weather. They don't panic if one pillar weakens. They adjust, they strengthen, they proceed. And so must you, because your vision is your architecture. And every decision you make either strengthens its foundation or cracks it. There will be days you feel nothing's working. That's when the average person looks for the exit. But when you've burned the boats, the only way out is through. So you pause, you reassess, you shift the approach, you ask better questions, but you never let the pressure convince you that the process is broken. Strategic execution isn't always fast, but it is inevitable if you're consistent. Let me be clear. Desperation without discipline will burn you out, but commitment infused with structure, strategy, and self-honesty will forge you into someone unstoppable. It's not glamorous, it's not viral, but it works. Because in the end, power doesn't come from the fire of your emotions. It comes from the consistency of your execution. So burn the boats. Yes. But then build the bridge with clarity, with courage, and with calculated action every single day. The world rewards the ones who don't just decide, but those who deliver relentlessly. Strategically, completely, let that be you.